Hello, welcome to another tonalist landscape oil painting demonstration. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy, and the painting I'm bringing you today is called Summer Pond. It's a 5x7 I completed recently, and it's one of these little paintings that had maybe a couple hours free and wanted to paint. Like I'm sure some of you, or maybe most of you, or all of you, I get lazy too. But what I always try and remember is like, well, you can't call yourself a painter if you don't paint, right? And you can't get very good if you don't create a lot of work. And it's not like, for me, the process is definitely more important than the having a string of paintings, behind me. I love all of my paintings, and I'm fond of them. But I'm the kind of person that's always looking forward, always looking ahead, always basically, sort of more interested in being in the moment and creating art. And so that's valuable. I think it's valuable. So what I do is, if you've been with me any time at all, I have a folder full of references. Some of them which I've painted before. I have painted this scene before. I did it as an 8x8, and I think as a little 5x5. Um, I think both of which sold. I lose track of that sort of thing, but um, this was a long time back, probably 2012 or something like that. And I thought, oh, I'd like to revisit that. It's actually a scene that's not that far from where I live, but I've never been quite able to capture the scene the way that I did on the, it's kind of a scene just outside of town. There's a little river, and I've pulled over the car several times and taken some photos and things. And anyway, yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. It's got, pretty good sky, pretty good color, and this painting turned out nice. In fact, someone was looking at it and admiring it in my studio gallery just the other day. So I wanted to, well, I owed you a video, so I've done a little book walkthrough, and we'll be doing more of those. I don't have infinite art books, but I probably have more than I think I do. So yeah, someone had suggested Carlson, which is a great book. I was just thinking it would be awesome though if somebody would redo that book with full color. I admit that I'm very spoiled as a modern with color. When you see the black and white images in the painting books, it's just, you know, it's hard to get involved. Although what I will say, one thing I enjoy though is that old book smell, the smell of the libraries of my youth, you know. Anyway, what I thought I would do is do a little bit of reading from the painterly approach, which is, I did, I think, a video a week or so ago, and that is a book by Bob Rohm that came out about 11 years ago or so. It's really one of the best books on painting you can get. It's called The Painterly Approach. His last name is spelled Rohm. If you want to learn about painting, he's a great guy, really, really good. He paints a little bit more impressionist than I do, but he is super good, super amazing. He has a different set of agendas than I do as a painter. And I try not to compare my work to others, but I certainly know when someone's amazing and an amazing teacher, and he really is. So, um, uh, so many of the things that I've internalized may have even started with Bob back in the day, because I was so lucky to come across his book in a Barnes and Noble or something around the time I decided, oh, I want to. I'd had it in my head since I was in my 20s. I wanted to do landscape painting. God knows why. I was, in my 20s, I was into drawing monsters and comic book stuff and, cool things. But I also worked in a like a gallery frame shop back in my youth, and there would always be awesome like landscape posters and prints coming in, and I used to get. I had a few really nice posters that um, I would just love to sit at home and go into the landscape. And to me, that seemed like one of the most valuable uses of art was to have a place of respite, a place that you could go and rest, and that was inhabitable by your own consciousness, you know. Anyway, the bit I'm going to read, it's about drawing in the painterly approach, and page 26 of the book. And doesn't necessarily relate directly to the painting we're doing today, except that I definitely put all these principles into effect. One of the things I'm always harping with people that come into my studio and say, "Oh, I want to be an artist," or "I like doing art," I say, "Just draw, just draw. You don't have to get the paints out." And I says, "If your drawing's good, your painting will be much better than if your drawing's not good." That's what I always say. Now, let's see what Bob has to say. Okay, so drawing in the painterly approach. Bob says, "Now, let's talk about drawing as it relates to the painterly approach. When I said earlier that my goal isn't to create an accurate rendering, I didn't mean that drawing isn't important, because it is. To create a good painting, you have to be able to draw, and drawing is its own art. Painting and drawing are inseparable. You'll use drawing in every step of the painting process, from laying out the composition to placing the final accents of color. When I paint, I want the viewer to be able to identify my subject, so my drawing has to be accurate. However, the principles I apply come from a realm of the abstract, from viewing my subject as shape, color, and edges, rather than as line and detail. So in this context, drawing doesn't mean putting lines around one object to distinguish it from another. It means measuring shapes in areas and carefully keeping their relationships correct. It also means placing a stroke where you want it, and in the size, contour, and direction you intend. If you get all the shapes and their relationships right, they will end up with a pattern of color and value that not only evokes emotion, but looks like the subject without drawing a single line. And take a little break here. You know, the type of drawing that you've seen me do at the beginning of every painting, it's called a mass drawing. So while some lines are employed, basically you're looking for, like good old Bob said here, you're looking for the shapes, and you're looking for the contours, and you're looking for their relationships. It's not about line, even if you may start with a line to fill it in or what have you. Continuing with Bob's writing here. So how can you use drawing in your own painting? Before you put the first mark down in your canvas, look at your scene and study the shapes. Evaluate these areas. Angles. What is the angle of this shape's edge, and how does it relate to the angle of this window, tree, line, or road? Size. How big is this shape, and how is it larger or smaller, or more curved or more angular than the other ones? Relationships. What is the color temperature, and where is the black and white value of each area? How defined are the edges of the shapes? Make an effort to paint what you see, not what you know. Boy, that's a big one. You know, if you're a painter just starting out, you know, pause the video and write that down. Maybe tape it to your easel, because this is the number one place where amateurs and painters and artists just starting out really mess up. They're always painting what they know, not always, but very, very often I've seen the phenomena that they're painting what they know, what they think they know, and not painting what they see. And if you could just learn to see and put that down on the canvas, you'd be really miles ahead. And this is one of the reasons why it's super valuable to do a lot of paintings, because you really need to break through this stuff. And the only way I know, other than listening to the sage and wise advice of your friend M. Francis McCarthy, is by doing a lot of paintings and breaking through it. And as you look back in your wake, you know, you'll say, "Whoa, I really wasn't getting it back then," you know. Anyway, continuing. Don't paint a tree a certain way because you know it is a pine tree. As soon as you begin to think of a thing for what it is, you begin to paint what you know of that thing, and to lose sight of its relationship to other objects. You begin to draw edges and borders instead of paint that tree as a certain shape of a certain color and value, and above all, relate it to other shapes in your scene. To help you find these relationships, here are some steps you can take. Badoom. Bullets. He's got bullets. Bullets are good. Find your horizon line. To do this, hold your brush at arm's length horizontally and level with your eyes. The brush automatically marks the horizon line. This is assuming you're painting from nature in a photograph. I don't know. But it's good to know. You should definitely try and figure out where that horizon line is if you can. Observe how all the parts of the scene relate to your brush. You will see quickly how much of the side of the mountain or the edge of the river slopes. Sketch the horizon line a bit above or below the middle of your painting surface. Yeah, good idea, unless you're Georgian this. Begin laying the shapes as you see them in relationship to the horizon line. As you lay in the masses, frequently check your work. Use the tip of the brush again, held at arm's length, to compare and measure shapes. Transfer these size relationships to your painting. If you take your time in making these relationships accurate, you won't have to correct your proportions so much later. Also, your painting will feel more authentic to your subject, whether it is a landscape, still life, or figure. As you lay in your subject, focus on its essential characteristics: shape, color, contour, value, and its relationship to other shapes, not on its details. Keep the edges of the masses soft, so they can more easily be pushed and pulled as the work evolves. Boy, that's a big one. Let's pause for a minute there. I'm working with students in my studio all the time, and one of the things I'm always stressing is, like, they lay in a shape and they slash it in with a strong diagonal and a harsh edge, and I'm like, that's something that you're going to have to reconcile later. You don't want to ever start with a very harsh edge when you're laying things in. Find ways. In fact, if you listen to my live videos, by the way, there'll be a live version of this in the members area, so you can tip on over there. Also, should point out, I just recently put up a brand new 2020 guide to Michael's color palette for members only there, and it's just as a special bonus to the people that have been kind enough to help support me and my painting practice. So if you're interested in that, tip on over, check it out. Anyway, if you lay in that shape of the harsh, anytime you have a super harsh edge in your work, it's going to be, in fact, if you let it dry, it'll be almost impossible to reconcile that edge later. It's very important that you have an approach, and like I was about to say and didn't get to, I have 1,000,001 edge approaches. It might be rubbing with my finger, it might be how I'm using the hairs of the brush, cutting across the angle. It might be a dabbing sort of approach. Different edges and different shapes will require you to use different strategies. But whatever strategy you employ, definitely be aware. And you make, again, a good place to make another note. Don't make it hard if you're gonna want to change. In fact, just don't make it hard at all. You can always come in and make an edge a little firmer. But it's very, very hard to soften an edge that is too hard. Yeah. Anyway, I think we'll leave his book there because we're getting pretty close to the end of the video, and we'll be, I'm going to focus on this book for a little while because it's just a good way to kind of spice things up on the channel. We have hundreds and hundreds of videos here. And I realize I do tend to say the same things all the time, and Bob is saying the same things I say, but he's saying them in a little different way, and it helps to spark that in me. So I think it's giving you more value, really. But if you don't own this book, go buy it, definitely. And it'd probably be one of those books that I'll do a little quick walkthrough of at some point. Anyway, we're at the end of the video. Thank you so much for joining me today. You can tip on over to my website if you like. I got some paintings for sale there, and it's just a good resource for you, I think. Yeah. Also, there's a big fat donation area, so you could throw some money my way, and I'll go buy a tube of paint. Anyway, until I come back with another video, please do me a favor, do me a solid. Take good care of yourself and your family. Happy New Year. And try and be patient with people in these troubled times, and stay out of trouble.